Good morning Year 3 and welcome to week 14 of your home learning. This week things are going to be slightly different because we have finished covering all the content that we would have worked on in Year 3. We're going to practice some concepts that will help us as we move into Year 4. We will be revisiting number and place value this week, and we will be looking at different problem solving and reasoning tasks. So it's going to be slightly different this week. I've also included a daily session of Fluent in 5 for you to complete. So at the start of each of the slides, you will see a Fluent in 5 screen, just as you would have done in class. I would like you to pause your video for 5 minutes. If you've got a timer, that would be great. Have a go at them. And you could even explain to an adult or your brother or sister or someone in class how you've done them, just like we would in class. So as I've said, this week's focus is on number and place value. So we're going to be looking at the value of each digit in a 3-digit number. We're going to be comparing and ordering numbers up to 1,000, reading and writing them, and finding 10 or 100 more or less. So here is today's Fluent in 5. Pause the video, set yourself a timer for 5 minutes, and then we'll check the answers. So here are the answers. Hopefully you will have tried these ones mentally and used a written method for this one. Now there are a number of strategies that we would use and hopefully you've been able to explain that to someone in your classroom or at home. So going back to place value, at the start of the year we covered this. We looked at the deans and the value of each dean. We know that the smaller square is 1. And then a 10 is equivalent to 10 ones. And a 100 square is equivalent to 10 tens. It's the same as, it equals. Because we know this, we also know that 3 tens would be the same as 30 ones. Or that 200s would be the same as 20 tens. 20 times 10 is 200. 20 tens is the same as 200s. Now this will look familiar to you, our place value chart. You could always draw one of these at home during these activities to help you, just on a piece of paper. And this number represents 427. So we've got 4 100s, 2 10s and 7 1s. Now when we're talking about the digits in a number, and the value of those digits, that's really important mathematical language that we really need to be remembered to use. So we've got our hundreds column, our tens column and our ones column. The number 427 is written on the place value chart. The digits 4, 2 and 7 represent 4 hundreds, 2 tens and 7 ones. And the value of each of those digits is decided by the column that digit is in. The 7 is in the ones column, so it has a value of 7. The 2 digit is in the tens column, so it has a value of 20 because it represents 2 tens. Doesn't mean 2 tens. And you know how much we have to remember when we're talking about numbers in the columns to remember to give them the proper name, if you like, 2 tens. So we have the digit 4 in the hundreds column, that represents 4 hundreds, and the value of this digit 4 is 400. And then we can add them together to get back to our original number. 400 plus 20 plus 7 equals 427, and that's the number that we have at the top of the place value chart. So please try to remember digit, represents, value going forward into year 4 for when we cover place value and number them. So if I added one more 1 into the ones column, I would have 428. So have a go at counting on in ones from these number lines here. So we've got 427. If I kept adding on ones, carry on, and then starting at 196. So I'm sure you're all shouting at the screen, Mrs. Murray, we know how to do this, but we're just going over it. 429, 430, 431, 432, and so on. 198, 199, 200, 201, 202, etc. Now I'd like you to try counting on in tens. And think about, what do you notice about the ones column as you do that? 427, 437, 447, 457, 467. I have it all on the next slide. And you can see that the ones column for each of these numbers doesn't change. That's because we're adding on 110. We're adding 10 more, and there are no ones in the ones column. If you're adding no additional ones in the ones column, rather, because you're adding on 0 ones when you're adding on 10. So the ones column doesn't change, the tens column does. Hopefully we've got all of these numbers written down. And then we're adding on 100 more, so we're putting 100 more into the hundreds column. And again, think about notice about the tens and ones columns. So hopefully you'll have counted on in hundreds and you'll have these numbers. And you'll also have noticed that when we add on a 100, we're not affecting the ones or the tens columns because there are no ones and tens when you're adding on 100s. So the ones and tens digits in each of these numbers is the same. It's always a 2 and a 7. And when we're counting up in hundreds from 256, the ones and the tens don't change. So have a go at writing the number 495 on a place value chart, and then think about the digits and the column that they are in on that place value chart and complete these sentences. Hopefully you'll have recognised the digit 4 is in the hundreds column, the digit 9 is in the tens place, and the digit 5 is in the ones place. So I've taken some pictures here. I've got 1, 2, 3 hundreds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tens, and 5 ones. So if I was to write this, or put it onto a place value and then write that onto the place value chart, I would write down 3 hundreds, 7 tens, and 5 ones. And the 5 would represent 5. The 7 in the tens column would represent 70. And the 300s in the hundreds column would have a value of 300. And the number that I have made is 375 by adding those 3 numbers together. So I'd like you to fill in the missing numbers here. Again, you might have used your place value chart to help you with that. You might have drawn it. But I know that if I've got 6 hundreds, 2 tens and 8 ones, that makes 628. 430 and 7 makes 437. And 100 plus 40 plus 9 is 149. Now for each of these sentences, we could have written it in any of this way. So I could have written 600 in the same way that this is written as a number, 20 and 8. Could have written it as a number sentence, but here it's written in words, and here it's written in the values from each column without the adding sign. So it's just a different way of representing it, but it's good to get into practice of this, because sometimes when we come across a test, it won't always be written in a number sentence like this. It might be written like this, but it's asking you to do the same thing. So today's task, going over some place value charts, looking at the deans and writing the value, writing some words as numbers and numbers as words, and then working out what number is one more than this number, what is the value of the digit 1 in this? And then I'd like you to circle the number where the value of the 9 digit of these numbers is the lowest. So here we've got numbers represented in different ways, some of them in words, some of them in number sentences, and I would like you to draw an arrow or colour them the same colour, connecting the same numbers, the equal numbers. And then choose one of those and see if you can come up with another way of representing it. Sanjay has tried to write the same number in different ways, but he's made some mistakes. Can you cross out the mistakes and correct them? And then as a challenge, I'd like you to explain the mistakes that Sanjay has made. And finally, we've got some shapes here to represent numbers, but if the heart equals 100, the pentagon equals 10, and the triangle equals 1, can you calculate what these equal? And then a challenge for you, can you then add on one more heart, see what number you have, and then one less pentagon and see what number you have, and we'll go through those tomorrow.